everyone, and namaste. And you know, the amount of hooting that you guys have done, I'm actually very, very nervous now. All of them are my friends. I've worked with them on various occasions, but believe me, I have butterflies in my stomach, and I rather wish I was sitting with you guys and not here. But anyways, here I am. Guys, be kind to me, all of you, especially you, Iram. So welcome to, and I don't rely on my memory, so I'm like going to be here, just bear with me. So welcome to Designing Identity and Taste, Luxury and Contemporary Indian Interiors with our panelists. Each of them here has, all of you all have known, and the introduction has been done by Tanya, so I won't go into details, but all three of them have been Edida winners, and very proud to be doing this with you guys. So today we are asking them questions on how interiors in India have become a powerful canvas for both designer and the homeowners, where taste, culture, memory, and modern life literally negotiates the same square footage, right? So how is India being reimagined without cliches? I have questions on those lines. How does luxury shift from show to substance? How do craft and contemporary living meet without tokenism? And how, in a globalized movement, how do we stay unmistakably rooted and not just well-referenced? So first, let's speak on identity. And this is a common question for all of you. I want you all to just give me or define personally how India's design identity today is shaping up. According to you, what is the identity that we are moving as a country? Kohelika, with you?
So you can't rely on your memory, but we should, no?
This is the benefit.
India's design identity, according to me, is constantly evolving. I think it's reflected of centuries of craft and now fitting into a more modern aspirational society. One of the most nicest things I read actually about India's design identity is that it honors memory while moving forward. And I think there's a continuity of tradition, which then we adapt to more functional and modern ideas, which is the beauty of India's design identity. I see it in all three of our work, actually. And I think the amazing part is how designers look at tradition through their own contemporary lens, using innovation, using indigenous material and the craft. And that is where I think, as Indians and Indian designers, the magic lies today.
Yeah, I mean, you can't disagree with her. But broadly, I just think that, in general, Indian designers are getting more comfortable and confident in their own skin. The talent was always there, but there was a certain amount of desire to ape, imitate, which I think is significantly flushed out. Still remains a little bit of the dredges, but I think the biggest thing is that they're owning up to what they're confidently putting out there. And I think that is the new India. That's the more confident India. It could be good, bad, ugly. It could be in wood. It could be arts and crafts based. It could be weaves. It could be textiles. But everywhere, across the spectrum, there's a certain amount of, I'm happy to be me. And I think that is the new Indian design identity, that each one of us is more confident and comfortable in our own skin.
Right. So, I mean, we used to, back then, we used to see a lot of Western influences towards interiors. We used to refer international magazines. But now, like you said, it's still there. But
Not gone, but...
So there is a shift. We have to say that. There is a shift. There is a pride, like you mentioned. So to deep dive a little bit, what's driving the shift? And how are the homeowners or clients responding to this shift?
When I started my practice, I started as a modernist, and I was definitely following the trend. And thanks to the media, we were exposed to trends, so-called trends that time. And everyone was like, make designs more like egalitarian, make them more like straight line, and proportions were valued. But when you start interacting with clients and you have me as a young designer, like when I started my practice like 10 years back, I was fortunate enough to have clients who were really culturally inclined, and they basically educated me that, okay, we want a house or we want a space that is um, really modern but yet respect our culture and our root. With that one project, how I started seeing India really differently. I started seeing our temples with a very contemporary lens. I used to see those little details and those shadow grooves in the pida or in a plinth of a Dravidian style temples. How those proportions to me, I started seeing them with a very like sort of a modern lens. And then I figured that it is not right to say anything modern or traditional or ethnic. It is our own perception. And when I started taking that shift, I really made it a point that I will proudly make my design look Indian. I want those proportions, I want those memories to be reflected, and it has to be evident. And that's how, like, when I started my collaboration, like my first collaboration with the brand was with Jaipur Rugs, and we made some Bauhaus style graphics inspired from Indian architecture. And that's when I started taking that pride in Indian proportions, motifs. I made them a little bit cleaner and translated them into multiple techniques, from carpets to leather boiserie to veneer marquetry. And I feel that having that confidence in me now today, I can say proudly that my designs are modern. They are globally adaptable, but yet visually Indian.
To kind of address your question in terms of what is causing that shift, is the client's expectations, but as well as the designer sort of being more confident. So I think the client's expectations are changing, because there was a time, like, I'm a little older than him by a decade, but I think when I started the practice, when we moved back, there was some clients who would still come to you saying, I want a house like that one. That has changed. The client likes that house, but doesn't want a house like that one.
He
They
still
want a
wants to
house-
create his own identity.
They want a house which is more them, correct? And the minute the conversation starts being about the client's personality, idiosyncrasies, so what I repeatedly tell my clients is that your home, your office, your whatever, your space is an opportunity for you to celebrate your weirdnesses, your idiosyncrasies, right? That's where you get to be you, which makes it uniquely you from your twin brother. And I think that the clients are also kind of realizing that I want my house to have a reflection of myself and my personal stories. And that is, of course, because you're designing in an Indian context, and your client is more often than not, even though you're doing global projects, it's the Indian diaspora who's still hiring us, at least. And therefore, that story becomes Indian by default.
Right. So I have a very simple question for you, taking off from Rajiv said. So yes, gone are the days when we used to reference international magazines, but coming back to what we are, and what is the ask, Kohelika? Like, what are the homeowners coming and asking in terms of, this is the kind of house, what are the referencing they bringing, and then how do you sort of put it together in what they have in mind? What is the
Well,
ask?
what are they referencing is my biggest friend and enemy, which is Pinterest. But
We will come to that.
And,
we will
and,
come to that.
and I don't know if there are any influencers here, but I get a lot of influencer reels. I know I have a client here who definitely sends me a lot of Instagram reels.
no, one influencer though I like a lot, because I learn a lot from her also. So I don't mind that. But the ask, taking off from what Raji said, I have to agree. Both of us are American educated, right? And I think, at least when I went in 99 and came back in 2005, there was this American dream. And when I moved back, there was very little opportunity to join practices that were doing, I think I'm going to get killed for this one, but in my eyes, original work. Some of the work I did, I worked with Norman Foster, where he was collaborating with IMPay. And one of the first things I worked on is I carried a model, which was the extension of the Boston Fine Arts Museum to IMPay, because he wanted to review what Norman Foster was building as the extension to that museum. That sort of thing has taken a while to come into India. And now I believe what clients want is, at least in our practice, sometimes we're doing architecture and interiors, and sometimes we're working with a different architect, a different landscape architect, and it's us. And what they're wanting is, they're wanting each one of us to bring this uniqueness to the project, which clearly defines who they are or what potentially will represent them. I think all of us here sitting also have clients who we don't necessarily want their home representing them fully, because but I think that at the end of the day, they appreciate that also. I'm not known to be agreeing to everything as a designer. So it's really what Rajiv is talking about.
No.
People want to own it. You know, they want just like they want to own their own
It's high
design
time.
style,
Yeah.
fashion. They want to own their homes now.
Amazing. In fact, Pinterest, I know this is not my favorite topic either, but there was a phase in ELLE DECOR, like we literally publish one home every day, and after a certain time when we would just look back, a lot of homes began to look like each other, and obviously the referencing was coming from those few, Pinterest inspirational images or whatever it is. And that's when it occurred to me that why, where is this all sort of stemming in from? Anyways, so coming to
It's when an editor chooses one type of projects.
this is why, Misha, you will not make me moderate with this, guys. This is the reason. Okay, so let's change the topic, because Pinterest topic is can go forever and ever. So coming back to identity, I think today craft and contemporary living, we are talking about collectible design, the use of craft across different products and homes. I wanted to ask Shantanu, craft plays a very huge role in your design, especially, and how do you bring in these elements, in your space without, you do it with a lot of, you twist and turn and make it completely modern, but it still goes back to, the motifs or the shapes that you talk about. So how do you sort of do that in your work? Because that brings a very strong identity to your work. And I have a follow-up question after that.
Well, see, I don't really use craft in its purest form. Like when I started creating graphics that were inspired from it was basically coming from textiles, the craft, embroideries, motifs, and also the filigrees that we see across our Indian architecture. What I thought, like I wanted to create like a graphical representation of my craft. So I used to use these motifs. I tried making them simpler. I wanted to add some more memory value to it so that they are more easy to remember, more cleaner as a proportion, and then translate them into some modern techniques. And that really helped me in sort of contemporizing Indian aesthetics and yet keeping them visually Indian looking. Like I don't want to drift away from or I don't want to abstract it so much that it's, it just becomes like an abstract art. I wanted to make Indian design look Indian, keep the motifs intact, but narrate them into different materiality techniques. Like we are now developing a whole collection that's inspired from Pochampalli Patola. So we are that technique it's very difficult to implement in home interiors. But then we are using them and we are using their values and their cultural consideration and even the spiritual aspect attached to it, and then translating them into a different material, making it more sustainable, more easily adaptable at a level where, it can be scaled up and represented in a spaces like home or hotels.
Right. So with such, experiments or such trials, how comfortable are today's homeowners when you guys want to try something which is strictly, not going with the modern lines, but bringing in the Indian identity back to home? How do you manage that harmony and balance, Rajiv?
So it's usually half and half. Like 50% of your clients will be encouraging, because eventually, like what I tell them is that, look, if there's any innovation, right? Innovation comes out of experimentation. Experimentation will have failure and success, because that's the only way you're kind of trying something new, right? If you've already been there, done that, then it's easy to succeed at it. So I think sometimes there'll be a client who is okay with the idea that I understand this is an experiment. I understand there's a cost which I'm bearing. I means the client. And sometimes the client is like, no, I want the tried and tested. So the tried and tested and the sort of trodden ones is what, honestly, we don't publish, or we sometimes don't even document them. But the ones which we find represent our intent better are the ones that we publish and put out there. So it may seem, at least for Red, as a practice, that this is consistently the kind of work we do, but there are other projects which fall by the bylines, and you start them off with the same energy.
Right.
But somewhere along the line, you recalibrate your approach based on the client's feedback, where they're not so keen on experimenting.
So, right. So, in fact, all three of you, I have noticed in your homes, the art plays a very significant role, especially in whether you're doing that Matani Pachedi panel or even pitchwise in your case, Kohelika. So, is this something consciously you bring in the Indian art into your homes to reinforce the identity, or how does it work? Kohelika, you want to go for this?
See, I think clients also want. I've done homes for the same client, which is in India, and for the same client with their home in London, and the art differs dramatically. Now it's the same family. I think it's also to do with geographically where the project is. I think it's very important. If someone is coming to us, I think they know that we will be rooted in our cultural milieu. In fact, something I wanted to say, I feel that India's design identity is actually timeless. I think what's happened is we are taking the best from the West, and because we are still obsessed with the West, so let's not kid ourselves, right? We are seriously obsessed with the West. But what's changed is that the West has started noticing us.
Okay.
And it's not that we are noticing them any less. And so for me, when I look at a project or when I suggest art, I think it's all to do with the setting. And that's why they say God is in the details, because I think it's about juxtaposition, and we all do this, and how you place what. But eventually, when it comes down to art and artifacts, I think what the client appreciates for that particular place where it's based, for me at least, plays an important role, because I want the house to belong to them, not belong to me.
So this is the tussle I always find. Like, how is it that you guys give your personal narrative to a design story or the interiors? And how much is the pushback that you give to client when it comes to their style and what versus what you want to do with them? Like, where does it sort of match, and how do you make that happen?
So, so my approach is rather democratic in that sense. I will propose. Very controlled. I will propose, right? Very clearly, the client has the authority to dispose. At some point, I'll say, look, this is what I think works. But if you think you know better, then cool. I don't push back. I don't know how to push back, and I don't bully. I cannot bully, because at some level, it's their house, and they need to live with the side effects of their choices. You can take 20 opinions. You can make Pinterest your guiding angel. You can take any influence that you want and decide that you want to choose that choice versus someone who you're paying money for advice, right? So either you chose wrongly at the onset and you don't trust this guy's advice anymore. So somewhere I have lost trust, and I need to rebuild that trust or find a better way to engage with them or a better way to convince. Like, I tell my team also that it's not, the idea didn't fail, right? The client is not bad. I was unable to present a perspective which the client could digest, right? So we somehow screwed up in the process of convincing the client. And that's genuinely what I believe.
Coming back to craft collaborations, I know each of you here, actually, besides interiors, you guys are also product designers. Are there any collaborations that you can tell us about, or that you are currently excited about, Kohelika?
See, I think collaborations is the way forward. Is it easy? No, it isn't. Is it easy in India? It's very difficult. Collaborations are successful, according to me, when people meet equally on a stage. Someone is not paying someone to kind of bring a knowledge or an asset of theirs on board. Um, you- I work very successfully with Thread Art. We're doing some, they're both here in the audience, Gunjan and Rahul. And we're really trying to understand how we produce functional products together. And I think I'm very proud of myself for having even that one collaboration, but I know Shantanu does quite a few rather successfully, so.
So Shantanu, I want you to talk about the wall that was there in the house that we had shot, and it was a beautiful story that you had built in the house that we did, the blue wall, and how that completely that one wall. I think you should talk about it.
So yeah, so basically, again, like contextualizing design is a key. Like when a client comes, they come with a story, and we look forward to that story. And that's an opportunity rather to translate that story into a design narrative. And that's how, the design starts taking its own shape, form, and then your sort of fixed codes or the constant that you have in your design starts coming into the picture, and that's how your language is defined. So having said that, similarly in that particular project, my clients they were staunch disciples of Lord Krishna, and they wanted that entire space to be like in a hue of a Krishna, like that deep blue skin tone. And that's how we did those hand-painted wall covering. We collaborated with an artist called Shammi Bannu Sharma, who's a very really renowned miniature artist. We scaled up his paintings and we made them, like we magnified them into the proportion of the entire space. And then that's how that idea came, because client, basically they gave us a story, they gave us a context to dwell on. And that's how like that entire story becomes so relatable and relevant to that particular space. And that's what is an opportunity when you do a home. You can do them so uniquely because it is so, it is so much, it is just celebrating your client, and every client is so unique. Sometimes clients do come and they say that I want a Santorini looking home. Like back in time,
Right.
we used to get those kind of clients as well. But we had to educate them. Like, no, I'm not meant for that. Like also, even in a New Delhi home, they will ask you a New York style apartment interiors. But you have to tell them, you have to educate them. No, this is not a thing. Like you have to educate them. You have to be part of that process. How you can take influences from those sort of inclinations that they have, and how you can use those elements, but yet educate them that context and your own heritage, your culture, and your root is also very significant in the spaces where you live. So I feel that this is all about celebrating stories, and we look forward to stories.
Beautiful. So, I mean, the theme for the ID this year is design syncretism, and let's talk about the risk of design syncretism, because I feel it risks homogenization. So, do you guys feel that at some point we'll lose the identity of a design or Indian homes, because every home it's becoming a shaken mixture, so to say? And do you feel that eventually each home will start looking like how do you navigate that?
I think design, there will be a certain amount of homogenization which will happen. I think that's a given because we're all bombarded with imagery. And no matter how hard I try, I will be influenced by imagery of things I like, right? So it could be Western, it could be Indian, it could Kohelikas, it could be, often enough I've drawn Shantanu's motifs and then erased it. Because sometimes you're influenced by things, it's okay to acknowledge it, and you need to just draw it out, get it out of your system. Like there was a particular gate design which was done by Naved, he's a friend of mine, right, from architecture school, and it was stuck in my head. And I was using it for a project in Delhi, and I just could not draw any other gate. So at some point I reached out to him, I said, Naved, I need your gate cut drawings, I'm going to build it for this project and this thing. I don't even want to do the drawing because you've got the proportions right, you've got everything perfect, right? So I think it's okay to acknowledge that some amount of influence, we're all going to influence each other, right? And there's a certain amount of camaraderie and a certain amount of acknowledgement of that influence. But I think if we stay true to the end user, right? And if I call them stakeholders across scales of projects, so it could be an educational institute, it could be a house, it could be whatever. But if, and by when I say stakeholders, when I'm doing a home, I'm talking about the cook, the maid, the manservant, the man Friday, the drivers, everyone who has anything to do, including the guests who come infrequently or the guests who come regularly. They're all stakeholders in this experience. And their sort of stories will make this not homogenized, right? The minute I somehow weave that into the design experience. I don't know, did I answer what you wanted?
No, you did. In fact,
Oh, sorry. I thought I didn't, huh?
So, in fact, I mean, my next question there was, is there a risk of Instagram-worthy, interiors, are replacing the authentic living in design now? Because everywhere, like I've seen, there is one bright wall and everybody wants to like one Instagram-worthy. Like, how is Instagram changed the way you think, or no, you stick to the design that you want to? Like, are we...
Don't look at me. I suck at Instagram. I'm constantly accused of not having enough data on there, not being there enough. And personally, while I think it's amazing, because don't forget, I also grew up in my mother's studio, right? And craft was so central to the work my mother did, because she did work all over the world. So when you talk about, like for example, I think we guys are just touching the surface. India has so much to offer in terms of its heritage, its craft, its artistry, that I think we are good for a while. I mean, I can't really comment on this Instagram thing because, I get my news from someone else in my office. I'm really not good at it, so I'm sorry. Rajiv, take over, please.
I get bullied by this short little creature in my office called Sanaya.
Is she in the
She's
audience?
right there, that little monster there. But she's fabulous at this whole Instagram narrative. And what is nice is that she will engage with the studio. She will go to our sites. She will be sometimes a peripheral part of design conversations and observe what is important in that story or in that project. And somehow she'll bully us to kind of showcase that in the project. And for some reason, that seems to be connecting with our audiences for now. But do we engineer things to be consumable on Instagram? I don't think so, not yet.
Not anymore.
Though we did one restaurant where we were categorically asked to make a door which was bright and colorful so that everyone could take a picture of it and post it so the restaurant would get mileage. That's been the only time when the color was dictated to be a certain brightness or a certain aesthetic so that the restaurant could get mileage out of it on Instagram. But that's my only sort of time when things were we were pandering to that.
But sorry, I want to add to that.
Please, no.
Since it's especially you sitting over here. At the end of the day, I think we're all a bit guilty of that in some way or another, because after all, if we want to get published, that singular picture, those singular pictures, not to take, I mean, on a serious note, right? So we have to look at our projects in a fluid way, but we also have to look at our project eventually when you do the setting for a shoot, what's going to make a great Instagram picture? I mean, I'm being honest about it.
Or a cover picture, yeah. Whichever way you look at it, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I prefer that. I love Instagrammable
There you go.
pictures.
There
And
you
I
go.
love to take those kind of pictures. And I want people
I
my
love
work to be
that
like a
Shantanu
visual
is
treat.
owning this. That's
Yeah.
what I love.
So, but I tell you one thing, but we should not get influenced. Like, it doesn't matter how picture looks beautiful. The home is usually felt. I give you two examples. Two homes that I recently visited. Of course, my homes are very beautiful, gorgeous.
No one can argue that.
But two homes that I recently visited. One was Pinakin Patel's home, and one is Gautam and Ruchika's home done by Ram Sultan, which is on an ELLE DECOR cover. You cannot explain the feel, the emotion, and the whole experience through an Instagram picture. So we need to figure out basically a platform that how these homes can be made more experiential to the audience rather than, focusing on how they visually look. I can click this table and make it look beautiful and put it on. I have those photography skills. But
It's a
real
different
value-
scenario when you
Yes.
actually have to live in it. So
apart from whatever we post, what is the story, what is the narrative? If that is expressed well, of course, that's why caption is very, very important. So when you go to Gautam and Ruchika's home, you feel the element of joy and comfort. And also, as I know, even Iram's clients very well, so I know that what's their personality is and how it is like a translation of a personality into a design narrative. Similarly, when you go to Pinakin's home, it is all about celebrating India in a pure
Unabashedly
modernity.
and
It's unimaginable.
unabashedly.
It was the whole experience, the way we anchored around the dining, from how we transited from one space to the other, and how that entire visual experience was so well thought of. And there was story in every corner. But all these things cannot be captured on Instagram.
Cannot be.
Hence, I do things that
Iram
is
is
Instagram.
60% magenta right now.
No. I think no, but it's very true. I mean, Iram has not invited me to Ruchika's house, but Pinakin's house, and we all spoke about it, right? That it's truly an experience. There's a reason why he's a master of his craft, right? But we love him, but that aside. But no, genuinely, I think the house is just phenomenal. It's comfortable, it's homely, it's just perfect in so many ways.
One more sticky.
So Instagram needs to find a way to document that experience, that feeling, that emotion that you get in that space, which is never captured in a picture.
Mrudul, you need to find a way.
There you
Okay,
go.
yes,
then.
definitely.
I don't know how it all has to come back to me, guys.
Everything has to.
And on that note, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Kohelika, Rajiv, Shantanu.